Hey everyone, welcome to today's panel, Doing Romance in Fantasy Right. As you all know, I tend to not go towards the romantic in my writing, so I've really got no clue how to do it awesomely, so I've got some people in to help me. I have some amazing romance authors and then the readers and models who portray these characters. So let's just say hello to the crew. Susan, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Hello, I'm Susan Tisdale, and primarily I write 14th century Scottish historical fiction and romance. So many kilts, broadswords, horses, bad guys that I kill off in really delicious ways, making really gory ways. And I love doing what I do. And I've been a self-published author since December of 2011. I'm a USA Today bestselling author, and I've just released a 18th century Italian-Georgian novel that's far steamier than anything that I normally write. Most of my stuff is relatively tame. This one isn't. So anyway, that's what I do.
Catherine.
My name is Katherine Leveque. I'm a USA Today bestselling author. I do sell them. I write medieval English historical romance. I have 66 published books. I've been self-published since, May of 2012. So it's been a while, and I also have my own publishing in print. I publish other authors. So I have a business doing that as well. And yeah, I've been doing this a long time. Seems like a long time. This is such a great business. Oh man, this is such a great business. So I love it.
Yeah. Awesome. Michael.
I am Michael Foster. I'm a Scorpio who enjoys long walks on the beach. And,
I'm a Scorpio too.
Oh
God. No, I'm just glad to be here with all these great folks, Catherine, Susan, Sean, Andy, and a little bit about me. I was a high school English teacher for 9 years, and although I haven't written any novels, I have read a bunch of them. I'm an actor and a producer here in Los Angeles.
Awesome.
All right.
John.
Hi everybody, my name is Sean Hampton, and I am a cover model in the romance industry. I'm also one of the hosts of Cover to Cover, which is the internet's most popular male model hosted romance review show. My co-host is Michael Foster, but guess he forgot that today. I'm very forgettable, so he probably forgot we work together. But
not enough to drink yet.
What's that guy's name again?
But no, we are the hosts of Cover to Cover, and we work together on that plus other projects. Mike is the one who got me into the romance modeling industry, so I owe him so much thanks and gratitude for the success I've had, and I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, that's cool.
Awesome. Well, let's dive right in. Susan and Catherine, as sort of the experts on the romance, what are a few things that a good romance, a well-written romance, let's say, has to include?
Well, can I take it, Suze, for a second?
Go ahead.
All right. I'm gonna jump on this one. There's a few elements. I think one of the elements is that one of the things you have to consider is that readers are very smart these days. And so you have to make sure that whatever you write is very well researched, because I think we've all had our novels, picked on by people if you're not well researched. So I think that that's number one thing. You're writing historical romance, you better know what you're writing about. Number two, you have to have the romance. You have to have the passion. That has to be there. You have to have the adventure. So that there's a lot of elements. It's like a good soup. You have to have a lot of good ingredients for it. So that's really kind of the mantra I go by, actually, when I write. It's not just one element, it is several.
It's layered.
How much of your book, let's say any book, pick a random book, how much of that book is actual romance and how much of it is the rest of the story?
Suze, you want to take that?
I do mine a little bit differently. Mine is, I think the story is primary in almost all of my books. The romance is there. It's like the two things work hand in hand. And again, like we were talking earlier, everybody's got their own idea of what romance is.
Yeah.
Some people think my books are just like my mother, God rest her soul, before she died. She really thought my books were not steamy enough.
Yeah.
She did. She really thought they were tame. And then I've got other people who think they're pornography. So I think sometimes people intertwine romance with sex.
Yeah.
And I've got books where everything is behind closed doors. So romance, you need to separate the romance from the sex.
But I think you made a good point, Suze. It's like romance is in the eye of the reader.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
some want that scene, they want that sex. You know, they want the guy with the shirtless guy on the cover. And
Yes.
some want just, you know, it behind closed doors. So it really is, yeah, Mike Foster's shirtless body on the cover. So yeah, I think it's really in the eye of the reader. And so you have to, as an author, you really have to stay true to what you want to write and what you like to read. If you go listening to everybody, it's going to make you crazy. So you
Exactly.
have to find the right formula.
And I think, Kat's books are far more steamier than mine, I think, right?
You know, I have one sex scene and then I got a lot of passion, but I don't lay it out like some of the authors do, like every
Oh,
chapter.
God, no. Like,
I don't do that.
every other page.
Mostly the adventure with the romance kind of woven in.
Exactly. My adventure, I try to keep the adventure of the entire story first, but again, the romance runs parallel to it.
It
And I
has
have
to.
lots of passion. Well, one of my readers coined my books, Passion Without the Smut. And
That's good.
personally, I like smut. I read steamy books, I do. But
That's
one of the
excellent.
reasons, there's a main reason why I started out not writing sex scenes or very steamy stuff. That was because when I very first started, my mother-in-law was my editor. She did a newspaper for 30 years. I know, right? And I didn't want her to think I was doing any of these, naughty things with her son.
Son.
He's in his 50s. I was in my 40s at the time. I was like, well, I don't want her to know I'm doing this. So I just picked it out because I didn't want, she's the sweetest, most soft-spoken Lutheran woman. I mean, we don't talk about puppies or, or sex or anything like that. So I didn't want her to think bad of me. So
Andy, does that kind of cover your question, Andy, a little bit?
yeah, it depends on who's editing your books.
Yeah,
But yeah, I have lots and lots of passion in my books because I think you can have that build up and then take everybody behind closed doors. Or like on occasion, I'll have almost always my heroine and hero are married before, they do the big deed.
Yeah.
But I think that's just because it's historical fiction and that's just generally, I think, how things will probably.
It just goes back to romance is in the eye of the reader. It really is.
Exactly.
Exactly what she's saying.
Did we answer your question, Andy?
Yes. A while ago,
No rambling, Susan. No rambling.
one of you said that you sort of interwove the romance into the adventure. And I think as a reader, not necessarily a hardcore romance reader, but just a guy who reads, I do like a romance that's well written, but if it takes away from the focus of the story at large.
Exactly. Bingo.
The thrust of the story is getting these 2 or 3 or 6 people together, and it sort of loses its appeal to me. Whereas a great action story, a great thriller, storyline that has romance woven into it, that's for me. It just
The romance will always be the subplot. It always should be the subplot.
And I think that's why I have so many male readers.
I do too. I have a ton.
Oh, a ton of male readers.
Yeah.
So
interesting. Well, speaking of male readers, we've got Michael and Sean. Let me ask you this. Let's flip it around. What is something that makes you cringe about romance? Like, what's something that just makes you say, no, I'm not going to read this?
I don't get to say I won't read it, but when I see it, I'm like, oh God, I have to read it. It's when it's going to sound really funny for me to say this, but this is the example of what they were saying just now in motion. When I read a book and it's filth, and that's what I call it, and you can ask Mike, when I think it's like filth, I'm like, this is disgusting. I don't want to read something this explicit. I
can vouch for that. He really says that.
Yeah, I believe it.
Before we actually started cover to cover, he was in the cover of this erotica book, and there's it's like 3 people, together. And I'm like, let me see what this book's about. So I start flipping through it, and I'm on his couch, and I'm like, oh my God.
That was good. Exactly.
that's how I learned about sex. I'm serious. My mother, she wouldn't tell me what sex was. I was a senior in high school, and my neighbor lady gave me a dirty book to read, and I was laughing at it. I'm like, what's sick idiot, twisted idiot. And she's like, you really don't have a clue, do you? And I'm like, what? She said, Lizzie, that's really how it's done. And I'm like, he puts the what, I don't think so.
I mean, just in recently like that happened because we reviewed a book a few months ago that was exactly what the ladies were saying. The romance was just part of the story. You get to the sex later, and if it's done correctly, the romance has built you up, and you're ready for the sex at the same time it happens. So, like, right, yeah, it builds to that point. No pun intended.
It's a plot. It's like good porn. It's got to have a plot.
I don't know about all of that, but but like there's another book that we're reading now. I won't say what it is, but it's one of the books we're reading. And by page 7, I'm like hearing about their first time. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even know their last names. So, but maybe it's a little clue.
That's the trick. We want our readers, I want my readers endeared to my characters, to my and my heroine, before we go throwing them in the sack.
Yeah.
I just,
you know, the way, and I'm glad you guys said that, because that is what Sean and I, reading the books as well, that is what we like to read. And I take this back to when I taught a few horror stories when I was teaching high school English. And one of the things that I always likened them to were like, you know, like a horror movie. All the best horror movies waited for the big reveal. Like, I could always tell them, like, do you want to know if a horror movie sucks? The monster's on the cover. That's plain and simple. Game over. And, you know, the best horror movies like Jaws, movies like Alien, you didn't come right out. You know what I'm saying? Psycho, exactly. You didn't come right out. Let's say let's say the sex is a metaphor for the monster, okay? But, you know, that being said, you had your buildup. You knew it was there, like the romance. It's slowly building up. The suspense is slowly building up. And then you have the big reveal, which in the case of what we're doing here would be the sex scene. But if exactly, but if it's just peppered with, you always look at the monster. The longer, like even zombie movies, the longer you look at a zombie, the less scary they become. And I think the same goes with sex. The more you're looking at sex scenes over and over and over, it just desensitizes it from the big, pardon my term, but climax.
Poor Sean. I just want to pat him on his little bald head.
I know, poor Sean, honey.
I'll tell you, there is a difference between an indie romance and a traditionally published romance, and it boils down to the number of sex scenes. Because I've talked to a lot of traditionally published authors who are still traditionally published and or moving towards being indie published, and they will tell you, each and every one of them will tell you, you had to have a certain amount of sex scenes. For instance, you had to have like 5 sex scenes in a historical romance novel, but God forbid you use the word chamber pot. Hand to God, true story. You couldn't use the word chamber pot, but you could talk about pink parts all day long, and, you know, velvet rods of love and all that.
Plug your ears, Sean. Plug your ears.
Yeah, right.
I think we have so much more freedom as indie authors because we don't have a traditional publisher that we have to make happy. We only have to make our readers happy.
Yeah, and that's very true. I agree 100%.
Is any of this helping you, Indy?
No, this is all super good. Like I said, I just had a rough outline of talking, but all this stuff is, you know, it's helping me to understand romance, because up until now I haven't really written romance into any of my books. I mean, the first book that I self-published had some romance in it, and it wasn't the main thrust of the story. It was sort of actually like an accidental end product of the relationship between these two characters. So I didn't focus on it, but then there will come a day when I have to write about much more romance. So it's interesting to learn not only what other authors do, especially romance authors, but readers, people who look at the different types of romance, the different portrayals of romance, and say, oh, this is good, this is not. So
this is something I was talking about earlier, and that is, we can write the books as authors, but guys like Sean and Mike are the ones who really sell it. They do. So, I mean, this is such a partnership as far as the people who write it and the people who put their picture on it. You know, it's a huge partnership. And Mike, how long have you been doing this now?
I believe this is my 3rd year.
Okay.
This is my 3rd year doing this. Yep.
And Sean, how long have you been doing it?
I'm closing in on my 1st year.
Wow. Wow.
He's a virgin.
I know. Yeah, he's.
You have to be gentle.
All right, now let's try to get this back on track.
All right, let's get on track. Let's get on track. Sorry, Andy.
But Andy, I want to tell you something.
Okay.
I don't want you to stress over the romance, and I don't want you to confuse the romance with the sex, because they are two entirely different things.
Yeah.
And romance, I mean, that again, that's in the eye of the beholder. My husband does all sorts of romantic things for me. Does he bring me flowers? No. Does he bring me chocolate? Hell no. But he does countless romantic things for me every single day. I mean,
He builds you a new kitchen.
oh my God, my new kitchen.
You know,
But it's
just
lots of different things. You know,
the
it's
romance and sex are two different things completely.
exactly. And I look at it this way. Romance is like a really great cake, just like marriage is. You've got this beautiful, beautiful cake, and the sex is the frosting on that cake. So you have to merge the two things together. What? Did you have the images of me licking this frosting off the spoon, Sean?
Well, yeah, but
Just, I don't want Andy to fret about the romance, because you can do it beautifully, you can do it simply, and I started reading one of your books, and you are a really damn fine author.
Yeah, he is.
Seriously.
Very, very good.
Blew me away. You can bring that element of romance in, and I have a feeling you're going to do it quite well, and it doesn't need to be page after page after page.
Subtle is better.
Yeah, subtle's better, and I
Yeah.
think Amy could do it in 3 paragraphs.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you don't have to fret about the romance. And if you want to put all the sex behind closed doors, you go right ahead, okay? If you don't want to write about pink parts and velvet love rods, you don't have to. What?
I'm going to use that velvet love rod.
I know. That's a great one, unless that's in one of your books and I can't use it. But
No, but turgid girth is in one of I
copyrighted the term man root, just so you know.
Man root, yes.
Yeah, I copyrighted that.
that's probably not going to be me. Well, we are coming to the end of our time, so let's ask this question for all 4 of you. What makes romance in a book real and believable?
Let's go with the guys first, because Susan and I have been talking a lot.
Mike, how about you first?
Honesty. I mean, really, I think that the more that you connect with the characters and see that it's coming from an honest place, it's more believable. You know, I mean, as much as we like to talk about the fantastic world of, walking on beaches and moonlit sunsets and all that stuff, I think that the more gritty and real it is, the more it clicks with me, at least.
Exactly.
Yep, I agree.
I'm gonna steal a little bit from Susan, because in my other job, which is a producer, when we're doing story development, it's always anything in a movie that's great is always in subtlety. That's where it's the moment when the hero walks in and he kind of tilts his head. It's that factor that makes you want to lean forward when somebody starts talking. And in romance novels, that's exactly it. It's not that he laid her on the bed and he started to thrust. It's that he picked her up at the bottom of the stairs and he moved his hand over her head. He looked into her eyes, that sort of thing. That's where the romance is. And the sex is, that's great, but that's going to be like 20 seconds. This is pages and pages.
Who are you hiring?
Yeah, I was going to say, is you going to be on the cover of this 20-second book, Sean? Not me.
I'm going to be on the cover of all of them, okay?
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
That's
Sean.
okay.
That's interesting. I like that. Sort of the subtle things, like instead of romance being a smack you over the head, hey, here's romance between 2 characters, making it subtle.
Watch actors, American actors who do Shakespeare versus British actors. I love American actors, but when we do Shakespeare, it's so powerful to us, we start screaming. Leonardo DiCaprio and Romeo and Juliet, that wasn't supposed to be screamed, but that's what we do. British actors know to hold back, and that's where the romance is.
I think the most romantic book I have written to date, still my favorite one, is Frederick's Queen, because there was so much going on outside pulling these 2 people together, and so many obstacles that my heroine Aggie had to overcome. That to me, that was just a remarkable story. The romance didn't happen until 3/4 of the way into the book, and they were married months before they even consummated their marriage because of lots of different things that had happened to Aggie prior to her life. But people who read this book, they will tell you it's their favorite, and it's the most romantic book. But again, it's in the eye of the beholder.
Okay. Katherine, what would you say is your most important thing to make the romances you write believable and real?
Well, what Susan said a while back was making sure that your characters are endearing.
Yes.
They absolutely have to be endearing, and they have to have some, even if you write about a jerk, he has to have some sort of endearing quality. She can't be,
a vulnerability.
some sort of a vulnerability. I think one of the most romantic relationships that I ever wrote about is a story called The Gorgon, and I wrote it about years ago. And it's an old grizzled knight, and he'd been through the tournament circuit, and he met this girl who had a very bad stuttering problem. She could not get a sentence out without just horribly stuttering. And the romance was built as he's being patient with her throughout this book, and it was just very, very sweet. So to me, I would much rather read about sweet and my heart fluttering than read about, the thrusting and the, to me personally.
It has to be real. It has to be someone.
It has to be real. It has to be believable, and people have to walk away going, oh, that's
exactly. And your hero can't be completely 100% perfect.
No.
Oh yeah, and so does your heroine. She has to have some kind of flaw.
Yeah, you really have to do that. But so yeah, but I think this whole discussion really covered that well.
Just like in real life, none of us are perfect.
Oh, I am. Wait, what?
I'm sorry, except Kat. The world doesn't love her. But no, you have to be real and endearing and vulnerable. And yeah, your hero can be an asshole at times.
Yeah.
But if you're a good writer, you can it's always that one thing more, like Anne Perry says.
Him,
that one thing more. You scatter that out throughout your story, just little tidbits that explains why that particular character behaves the way he does. Why is he an asshole? Why is he a great guy? Why does he have this scar? Why does he, why is he afraid of the dark? Why is she terrified of water? Just little nuggets that you scatter throughout the story. And it's always, like Anne Perry says, that one thing more that explains. And you could do that with your romance, that one thing more of why are these two people drawn together, or why were they thrown together?
Not making it single dimensional. You have to make it.
Yeah, it has to go up and down. It's like a roller coaster ride.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I feel very educated. Thank you guys so much for taking the time.
Oh, anytime, Andy, you're adorable. Anytime.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. That was great.
Anytime I get a chance to hang out with Sean and Michael.
Oh, when you're in Burbank, obviously, or Pasadena.
Woo! Pasadena.
There's the little lady from Pasadena.
That's right. That's right.
But oh God, I can't wait to get back to California.
We can't wait to have you back.
Oh, I might fly out in January when Kevin's in.
Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful evening. If you guys want to find out more about Katherine and Susan and Sean and Michael, check out the links below. Cheers.